Hi, my name is Robin Phillips, and this is The Process from She to Her. The Process from She to Her was founded out of my own wilderness, and that's what brought us here today. I knew I couldn't do it by myself, so I brought a few friends to join me.
Hey, I'm Jeff.
Hey, I'm Celia.
Okay, listen, we're gonna touch on some really hard topics. We're gonna find freedom to release, and we're gonna keep digging until we find a solution. Let's get into it. Today's topic is, or conversational piece is, men, you matter. You matter, Jeff?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so listen, I find it that men are so out of place when it comes down to being in relationships, leading their homes, being fathers, and I guess I kind of want to let them know that they are still important, they are still needed, and it's necessary. So, Jeff, help us understand your position and how you conduct being the lead in your household.
So for me, being a leader in my household means being a leader in certain aspects, financially, physically, emotionally. Like there's things that I do to put myself in that trajectory. More than anything, I want to be a man to my son so that my son knows how to be a man. And that has nothing to do with, because I know the crowd that, this may reach, has nothing to do with orientation or whatever the case. It is, I need him to know this is how a man should be so that he can teach his sons. And then it keeps going on. I think one of the biggest things is you take a man out the first part and then there's no one to teach the next man. So the question is, well, how come men don't know how to be men? Because there's no men teaching them. So you have women teaching men, and it's like, you're a good guy, but you haven't been taught to be a man.
That's good.
And so that's why I do what I do. It's so that my wife can know I can be secure that my husband is going to be there and he's going to be the man of this. But more than anything, I need my son to know when he has children, when he has a wife, when he's in his community, this is what a man looks like.
But where do it comes from, Jeff? Because the teaching have to start with the man somewhere, and I feel like it's a lack.
Yeah.
I really do.
Definitely.
I feel like it's a lack of teaching because I'm a daughterless father, right? And it affected me. Fatherless daughter, correction.
Right.
And it has affected me in my decision making, like tremendously. It makes me very emotional because I find myself stumbling over some things that I should be able to conquer if I only had the father to teach me how to love me, right? So when my dad decided to forfeit his contract as my father,
I got you.
it hurt me. And I didn't know how to come up from that. So now I'm with men looking for them to be my father and crushing my heart because they can't even be my man, let alone be my father. That's not their job, right?
You have some expectations that you're wanting them to fill the void, and it's not their job to fill.
It's not
that
their
void.
job to fill the void. But it's broken me. I'm broken. Right? So even today, and I'm 35 plus years of age. I'm 35 years old, but for me, now when I'm choosing a guy, I think about the hurt that my father implemented and how it just, and now I'm taking that in when I make a decision for a guy. He could be a really good guy, but I'm cautious, guys. I'm so cautious to let him come in.
As you should be.
Yeah. To some degree, though, because in order to be healthy, I would think that you got to let go of the past.
For sure.
But if you cannot let go of the past and it's now a part of your future, now that's not fair to the guy or the woman or whomever you bring into your life.
Which means that you need to step outside of the situation. You need to step outside of that and you need to identify, okay, what are these things that I need to get past? What are these things that are affecting me? You can't get past anything. You can't go forward from anything if you don't identify what's holding you back.
That's
you
good.
you can't go forward if you're not taking into account, okay, what are these things that are holding me back? Because I'll never forget, I was molested growing up. I pushed it to the back of my head. I completely forgot about it. I was so traumatized by it. As I grew up, I pushed it to the back of my mind, and I didn't remember it until I got to college. I was maybe around, I'll say 8-ish, somewhere around there, and I did not take into account what happened to me until I got to college, and it hit me so hard because it made me realize we, as kids, as we grow up, those things subconsciously affect us. So when you do remember it, when it does come back, you need to identify, this hurt me. I'm having trouble with this because of this.
But how do you release from that? Because being molested is a major thing.
Right.
So how do you trust the man to come in and love and hold and caress and give you everything you need after being molested?
Well, see, my parents are divorced, but I never told my dad. But my family still loved on me, even though I was afraid to tell them, because I didn't, you're a child, you don't want to get in trouble, you don't know what's going on, and I really didn't understand what was going on. It was by an older cousin as well, so I never told my family, but I pushed it to the side. Like, as I got older, I was like, this happened to me, and it, whatever, and then it happened again.
So what about the woman that don't have love, though, or have that type of support?
If she does not have that love or that support, she's got to really dig deep down in herself and figure out, how do I see myself? How do I see myself? You can't, you have to stop putting the responsibility on everybody else and say, how do I see myself? How do I, like, looking yourself in the mirror and saying, I am, and even if you don't believe it at that moment, like we were talking about earlier, you have to speak. You have to speak it. You have to start saying, I am beautiful. I am lovable. I am a great person. I am strong. I am successful. And even if you're not feeling that at the moment, speak yourself to where you want to be. Because if you don't have that support, if you don't have, those people that are your clutch people that are there to pull you through, you got to do it yourself.
Yeah.
You got to do it yourself. You might not be able to have that support or depend on anybody to really bring you through. But you can depend on yourself. So if you can depend on yourself, your independent self, your whoever you are to be, okay, let me identify this. Let me take responsibility. This will no longer affect me. This will no longer hold me back from being who I know I can be.
Yeah.
Period.
Being held accountable, or willpower, is what we need.
Right.
Right. So another question I have about the foundation being shaken. Right. Because if your father isn't in place, you have your mother, and sometimes mothers don't be in place either. And your foundation comes from the two people that birthed you, right? What happens when one of those are not there? How do a person get to know themselves or even have the willpower that she's speaking of?
I'll be honest, it took me a while to get there because when my parents separated, there were times where my dad would say, I'm coming to get you, and he wouldn't show up.
Oh.
There were times where I would sit in the window downstairs in my grandmother's house, and I would be waiting. Like, my dad's coming. He's coming to get me. And he would call, and he said, I couldn't make it. And he'd be like, I'm sorry, I just couldn't make it. And there might have been things going on with him. He didn't have a car. We were taking the bus. Like, my dad made so many sacrifices to try to get to me. So I didn't take it necessarily as personal, but at the end of the day, those things hurt, and
For me, it took me out.
scars you.
For me, it took me out. Like because my mother and father defined who I am. That's who I get. That's the first example of who I am from them. If my dad told me he loved me, then guess what? I'm not looking for nobody else. I know my dad loved me, if nobody else.
Right.
If my mom said, Robin, this is how a lady supposed to look, act, and respond, then I don't care what nobody else say. I got that from my mother. So what you're saying, it sounds great.
But for those who did not have that, that can be rough.
And it's not poured out the sky. Now, what you're saying is where we need to be and what we need to get to, but that's a hard journey
right
to take.
And you just have to take a step at a time. Deal with what you can deal with at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Don't try to take, the large step. You might have to crawl.
Yeah.
You might have to crawl first, and you got to crawl before you walk.
Yeah.
So you might have to crawl there. You might not get there today. You might not even get there by the end of the year, but at least you're taking steps.
I always would say, look at it for what it is. It's a saying that I say is, if somebody show you their hand, look at it. But sometimes you have to look at your situation and be okay with it. So acknowledging that this is where I'm at. And if you're angry, be angry. Mm-hmm. If you're hurt, be hurt. If you're sad, be sad. Identify those emotions and then deal with them one at a time. And it's no rush. Deal with them at your pace so that you can get through it and not suppress it.
So one of the things as we're speaking that came to me is in education, we always say you're never too old to go back.
Yeah.
Hey, man, you want to get a degree, doesn't matter how old you are, go for it.
Yeah.
Even in my adulthood, I take that into everything I do. And not just school. 2015, we were living in South Carolina. My mother lived 20 minutes away. She moved to Texas. In that transitional period, I found out a really good friend of my dad lived 5 minutes from us. I was able to say, hey, Lord, I need a mother. Like I need that tangible presence.
Yeah.
That woman that I can go to when I need that nurturing of a mother. I found that. Then when we moved here, I said, Lord, I need a pastor. We need parents since we're away in a place that we don't know of. At that church where we found a pastor, we found parents. Almost immediately.
Wow.
And their children became godparents to our child. Like it is a real strength, strong tie there. I'm saying all that to say, don't allow what you didn't have to stop you from what you need.
Yeah.
Hey, I need a father. If you're realizing that at 35 plus, then hey, there's men that can be that. Hey, you missed out? Cool. I'm going to take that position. And it's not going to be so specific as I'm your dad now.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
But it'll be, you'll realize like, okay, this guy loves me in the way that I need. He's the one that I can go to and he'll curb me in the direction I need to go. He's the father that I need in this season. And often, just like school, learning the things that you didn't learn many years ago helps you in the trajectory of where you are.
Yeah.
It helps you go forward from wherever you started.
I guess for me, I just don't want a generational curse to continue and take place. I don't want the lack of a father being present for me and my daughters to hinder their future in mine, because you get scared being in a relationship or whatever. So I don't want my daughters to have that same journey. I want that to change. And I also want my son to be the man that I never had, to that woman that he's going to be with in his future. I want to see him be the example. So I implement that as much as I can.
That comes from your village. That African proverb, takes a village to raise a child. Those men that you're looking for, those men that you need are in that village. You need men that are going to, and this is what we're saying, men matter. Why do you matter? Because you're the ones that are going to father my son, even though his father isn't there. He's not going to call you dad. He might not even say uncle or whatever, but he's going to pay attention to you. He's going to see you in the streets. He's going to see you move around. I was telling my wife this maybe a week ago. There are things that I got from my father, my stepfather, that he never taught me. that I take and are gold. When I pay for things, I take my wallet out, I give the card or I give the cash, and I put my wallet back. Then, when they give me the change or they give me my card back, I take my wallet out again, I put the card back, I put my wallet back. Why do I do it in that type of step? Why not just, take it out, put it on the thing, hold it in your hand? No, because the one time I keep it in my hand, somebody might snatch it. One time I might put it on the counter and walk out. You never, and he didn't have to teach me that, but I realized why he did what he did. Him having that structure gave me structure.
Gave you structure.
So the importance of men is if you keep your structure, the men around you have structure. There are people who grew up with fathers in the home that they learn nothing from the father in their home. But the guy next door, why am I a good man? Because the guy next door was a really good man. And the only thing I ever said to him was, hey, I think we went to one cookout, but that guy next door, I modeled my life after him because of how good of a man in the community he was.
Right. Okay, so listen. Men, you matter and you're needed. So listen, I hope you like what you hear. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe at From She to Her. This is the process.